Picture this. It is 5 a.m. You are deep in the best sleep of your life. Suddenly, a cold, wet nose aggressively pokes your eyelid. A paw gently yet menacingly taps your cheek. And then you hear it, the song of their people. Meow, meow. You stumble into the kitchen, a willing hostage to your fluffy overlord, only to find that their bowl still has a perfectly visible ring of food around the edges. But to them, there is a tiny, empty spot in the very center, which clearly means they are starving to death. You open a brand new, ridiculously expensive can of gourmet wet food. You place it down like a 5-star chef. They sniff it once, look at you with utter disappointment, and walk away. Sound familiar? Do you ever wonder if they do this just to mess with us? Or did your cat actually break? Today, we are settling the ultimate debate that has caused wars in comment sections everywhere. Dry food or wet food? What is actually going to prolong the life of your little furry tyrant? I promise you, the answer is going to surprise you, and it might just save you a ton of money and stress. But first, let's do a quick roll call. Drop down in the comments right now and tell me the name of your household's furry hooligan. To truly understand what goes on inside that chaotic little head, we have to travel back in time. Long before your cat was sleeping in a heated Amazon cardboard box, their ancestors were fierce, independent desert predators. Yes, I know it's hard to believe that the little derp currently stuck in your window blinds is a master assassin, but biologically, they still are. In the wild, cats didn't have water bowls nicely placed next to their food. In fact, their thirst drive is incredibly low. Why? Because they evolved to get almost all the moisture they need directly from their prey. A juicy mouse is basically a little furry water bottle. Nature designed them to be survival machines in dry climates. But fast forward to today, and our little apex predators are living in climate-controlled apartments, demanding we open plastic bags of crunchy little stars and squares. We took a desert hunter and put them on a diet of dry crackers. Understanding this single biological truth is the ultimate key to unlocking the mystery of your cat's health, their strange eating habits, and how we can actually help them live longer, healthier lives without losing our minds in the process. Let's start with the absolute classic, dry food, also affectionately known as kibble. For us human servants, it is the ultimate convenience. You buy a giant, heavy bag that doubles as a gym workout when you carry it upstairs, pour it into a bowl, and boom, your duty is fulfilled. It doesn't spoil quickly, it doesn't attract a swarm of flies, and it doesn't smell like the inside of a fishing boat left in the sun. But what does your furry overlord actually think about it? Well, imagine if you had to eat dry, crunchy crackers for every single meal of your life. Sure, they might be tasty, chicken-flavored crackers, but eventually you would want something a little more satisfying. Yet, some cats are absolute kibble addicts. You know exactly the type. They hear the microscopic crinkle of the plastic bag from 3 rooms away and suddenly teleport to the kitchen. They happily crunch on it at 2 a.m., sounding like a tiny rock crusher working the night shift, completely ignoring the fact that you are trying to sleep. But here is the secret truth you need to know. Dry food is very calorically dense. It is packed with energy. And since your house tiger's daily schedule mostly consists of sleeping, judging you from a high shelf, and occasionally chasing a laser pointer, free-feeding them a giant bowl of kibble all day is a fast track to creating a fluffy little bowling ball. Now, let's talk about the magical, the mystical, the incredibly smelly world of wet food. Is there any sound on planet Earth more powerful than the pop of a tin can opening? I swear, you could quietly open a can of beans and your cat will materialize out of thin air, rubbing against your legs like you are their favorite person in the world. Why do they go so absolutely crazy for the wet stuff? It all comes down to their incredibly powerful noses. Cats actually have a relatively weak sense of taste compared to humans, but their sense of smell is phenomenal. Wet food has a strong, pungent aroma that perfectly mimics the smell of a fresh kill. It triggers their deep, primal hunting instincts. When you pop that lid, their brain screams, "Yes, fresh meat! I am a mighty hunter!" Even if all they did to hunt was scream at you for 20 minutes. From a health perspective, wet food is a massive win because it typically contains around 70 to 80% water. Remember our desert predator history lesson? Because cats naturally lack a strong urge to drink from a water bowl, feeding them wet food is basically like a cheat code to keep them hydrated. It's like tricking a toddler into eating vegetables by hiding them in a smoothie. But wait, what happens if your cat is a kibble-only fanatic and refuses to eat wet food? This brings us to the silent, invisible danger that affects so many of our feline friends: chronic dehydration. You might think, "Oh, my cat drinks plenty. I bought them that absurdly expensive, constantly flowing LED illuminated water fountain." And that fountain is great, assuming your cat doesn't just use it to wash their paws and splash water all over your hardwood floors. But even with the best fountain, cats on a strictly dry food diet rarely consume enough water to compensate for the absolute dryness of the kibble. Over time, this chronic, low-level dehydration puts a massive strain on their kidneys and urinary tract. Kidneys are the Achilles heel of the domestic cat. Kidney disease is incredibly common in older cats, and urinary tract blockages, which are extremely dangerous and terrifyingly expensive to treat at the vet, are often linked to a lack of moisture in the diet. So, if we are asking what will prolong their life, getting more water into their system is arguably the single most important thing you can do. If your cat refuses wet food, you have to get creative. Add a little warm water to their kibble or offer them unseasoned chicken broth as a special treat. Let's completely destroy one of the biggest myths in the cat world right now. Dry food cleans their teeth. How many times have you heard this? People honestly believe that crunchy kibble acts like a tiny toothbrush for their cat. But let's use some basic logic here. Do you clean your teeth by eating potato chips? Of course not. When a cat bites down on a piece of kibble, it shatters instantly. It doesn't scrape along the gum line, it just crumbles into carb-heavy dust that actually sticks to their teeth, potentially making dental disease worse. Plus, have you ever watched your cat eat? Half the time they don't even chew. They just swallow the little pieces whole like tiny, furry vacuum cleaners. The only thing that truly cleans a cat's teeth is regular brushing. Yes, with a tiny cat toothbrush, which I know sounds like a suicide mission for your hands, or specific veterinary dental diets where the kibble is specially designed with a fibrous matrix to actually scrape the tooth before breaking. Standard grocery store kibble is absolutely not keeping their smile sparkling. So do not keep your cat on a 100% dry diet just because you think you are saving on future dental bills. You are much better off focusing on their overall internal health. Here is another fascinating secret about your cat's diet: the carbohydrate dilemma. Cats are what scientists call obligate carnivores. This sounds like a cool superhero name, but it simply means they biologically must eat meat to survive. They do not need carbohydrates. In the wild, the only carbs they get are whatever was in the stomach of the mouse they just ate. But if you look at the back of a typical dry food bag, you will see ingredients like corn, wheat, or rice. Why? Because you cannot make a crunchy, shelf-stable biscuit out of just meat. It would fall apart. The carbs act as the glue that holds the kibble together. Now, cats can digest some carbs, but their bodies are really designed to run on high protein and fat. When a cat eats a diet super high in carbohydrates, their body doesn't quite know what to do with all that extra sugar energy, so it often stores it as fat. This is exactly why we see so many Garfield-looking cats waddling around our living rooms. Wet food, by its very nature, usually contains significantly fewer carbohydrates and a much higher percentage of pure animal protein. It aligns much closer with what their bodies were actually built to consume in the wild. Speaking of Garfield, let's talk about feline obesity. It is very easy to look at a chubby cat on the internet and think, oh my gosh, how cute, a heckin' chonker. But in reality, carrying that extra weight is terrible for their joints, their heart, and their risk of diabetes. And guess what is the #1 cause of feline obesity? It's the bottomless bowl syndrome. Because dry food doesn't spoil, we humans love to just fill a massive bowl to the brim and let the cat graze all day. We treat their food bowl like an all-you-can-eat buffet that never closes. But out in nature, cats don't graze on a pile of mice all day long. They hunt, they eat a small meal, they groom themselves, and then they sleep for 6 hours. By leaving an endless mountain of highly palatable, calorie-dense dry food out all the time, we are overriding their natural rhythm. They start eating out of boredom, just like we do when we open the fridge 5 times an hour. If you want to prolong your cat's life, portion control is absolutely vital. You need to measure their food. It might break your heart when they look at you with those giant, sad, Puss-in-Boots eyes begging for more, but you have to stay strong. You are the parent, they are the fluffy toddler. But what about the incredibly frustrating picky eater syndrome? You know the drill. You find a wet food your cat absolutely loves. They devour it. They lick the bowl clean. You are thrilled. So you go to the store and buy 3 giant cases of this specific flavour, feeling like the smartest cat parent on earth. The very next morning you open a can, place it down, and your cat looks at it like you just served them toxic waste. They try to bury it by scratching the floor around the bowl. Why do they do this? Are they just evil geniuses trying to break our spirit? Not exactly. In the wild, cats instinctively seek out a variety of prey to ensure they get a wide range of nutrients and to avoid building up toxins from a single food source. This instinct, called neophilia, the love of new things, means your cat naturally wants a slightly varied menu. However, if they are stressed, or if the food is slightly too cold, they will reject it entirely. The trick is to rotate a few high-quality proteins. Keep them guessing. Give them chicken on Monday, salmon on Wednesday, and turkey on Friday. Just don't let them train you into opening 5 different cans a day just to find the one they happen to be in the mood for. Let's take a terrifying journey into the fine print. Have you ever actually read the ingredient list on your cat's food? It often reads like a science fiction novel. The rule of thumb for prolonging your kitty's life is simple. Look for named meat sources. If the first ingredient is chicken or salmon, you are off to a great start. But if the first ingredient is meat byproducts or poultry meal, you might want to reconsider. What on earth is mystery meat? It's exactly what it sounds like. whatever was left over at the processing plant. While byproducts can contain perfectly healthy organ meats, the lack of specificity means the quality can vary wildly from batch to batch. Also, keep an eye out for artificial colours. I guarantee you, your cat does not care if their kibble is shaped like a tiny red fish or a green star. Those artificial colours are added strictly for human appeal, to make us think the food looks fun and wholesome. Your cat is colourblind to those shades anyway. They navigate the world through smell and texture. Paying a little extra attention to the label and avoiding unnecessary fillers and artificial junk is a huge step in investing in your cat's long-term vitality and health. So, is there a perfect compromise? Yes, there absolutely is. For most healthy adult cats, the ultimate golden middle ground is a mixed diet. This is where you get the best of both worlds, and it saves your wallet from completely crying. You can feed them a high-quality wet food meal in the morning and evening to ensure they get that crucial moisture, the high protein, and the psychological satisfaction of a fresh kill. Then, you can leave out a carefully measured small portion of dry food for them to snack on during the day or overnight. This satisfies their natural desire to eat multiple small meals without turning them into a furry blimp. It also keeps their digestive system accustomed to both textures. This is incredibly important because if your cat ever needs to go on a specific prescription diet in the future due to a health issue, and they are rigidly addicted to only one texture, transitioning them will be a complete nightmare. By keeping them flexible and used to both wet and dry formats, you are actually future-proofing their health and making your life way easier down the road. It's all about balance, variety, and moderation. Now, let's talk about the dreaded litter box explosion. If you listen to this video and decide, right, I'm throwing away all the kibble and serving only premium wet food starting today, please, for the love of your carpets, stop. Cats have surprisingly sensitive digestive systems. Their gut bacteria are highly specialized to whatever they are currently eating. If you suddenly switch their diet overnight, their stomach will absolutely panic, and you will be dealing with a biohazard situation in the litter box that will make you question all your life choices. If you want to introduce wet food or change the brand of dry food, you must do it with the stealth of a ninja. We are talking about a transition period of at least a week to 10 days. Start by mixing 90% of the old food with just 10% of the new food. The next day, do 80-20. The next, 70-30. Keep a close eye on their bathroom habits. If things start getting messy, slow the transition down. Cats are creatures of deep habit, both mentally and physically. Respect their delicate little tummies, and your house will remain a fresh-smelling sanctuary instead of a disaster zone. Here is a pro tip that separates the amateur cat owners from the true feline whisperers. Temperature matters. A lot of people keep opened cans of wet food in the refrigerator, which is exactly what you should do so it doesn't spoil. But then, they take that freezing cold glob of meat directly from the fridge, plop it in the bowl, and expect the cat to eat it. And the cat just looks at them like, "Are you joking? I am a fierce hunter, not a scavenger of frozen goods." Remember, cats evolved to eat freshly caught, warm prey. Cold food has very little smell, and as we established earlier, if a cat can't smell it, they don't think it's food. Cold food can also upset their stomachs. The secret trick is to take the portion of refrigerated wet food, put it in a Ziploc bag, and let it sit in a bowl of warm water for 5 minutes. Or, add a tablespoon of hot, not boiling, water directly to the food and mix it into a nice, room-temperature gravy. The heat releases all those stinky, pungent meat aromas that drive them absolutely wild. Watch how fast a picky eater suddenly becomes a glutton when their food is served at mouse temperature. Let's address the 3 a.m. zoomies. You know, when your cat suddenly acts like they are training for the feline Olympics, bouncing off the walls, knocking over your favourite lamp and screaming into the void. A lot of this frantic energy comes from the fact that their life is just too easy. We give them food in a bowl, requiring zero effort. In nature, a cat spends hours hunting, stalking and problem-solving to get their meal. It is mental stimulation. To help prolong their life and keep their brain sharp, and to save your sleep, ditch the standard bowl for their dry food portion and start using food puzzles. You can buy puzzle feeders that require the cat to bat, paw, and figure out how to get the kibble to fall out. You can even make them at home using toilet paper rolls or cardboard boxes with holes cut in them. Making your cat work for their dry food engages their hunting brain, slows down their eating so they don't throw up immediately afterward, and burns off that excess nervous energy. A mentally stimulated cat is a happy, healthy cat. And a tired cat actually lets you sleep through the night. We need to talk about the gravy addicts. This is a very specific type of feline madness. You buy the expensive wet food that has chunks of meat in a savoury gravy or jelly. You serve it to your beloved pet. They immediately run over, purring loudly, and spend 5 minutes aggressively licking the bowl. You look down and what do you see? All the chunks of meat are left perfectly intact, completely dried out, and all the gravy has been licked clean. They basically just drank meat juice and called it a day. Why do they do this? Often it's a texture issue. Some cats absolutely despise the feeling of processed meat cubes, which can sometimes be a bit rubbery. They just want the flavour and the moisture. If you have a gravy addict, stop wasting money on the chunky varieties. Switch them to a smooth pâté texture. You can even add a little warm water to the pâté and mash it up with a fork until it becomes a thick soup. They get all the nutritional value of the meat, plus the extra hydration, and you don't end up throwing away half a can of dried-out meat cubes every single day. It's a win for their health and your sanity. Have you ever noticed your cat picking up a piece of food from their bowl, dropping it directly onto the dirty floor and eating it there? Or maybe they only eat from the exact centre of the bowl and act like the edges are cursed. Before you assume your cat is just incredibly weird, let me introduce you to a real phenomenon called whisker fatigue. A cat's whiskers are not just cute long hairs. They are highly sensitive, deeply innervated tactile sensors. They use them to measure spaces, detect air currents, and navigate in the dark. Imagine if every time you tried to eat a bowl of cereal, someone rubbed sandpaper against your face. That's what it feels like for a cat when they have to stick their sensitive face into a deep, narrow food bowl. Their whiskers keep brushing against the sides, sending an overwhelming amount of sensory information to their brain. It becomes genuinely stressful and painful for them. The solution is brilliantly simple. Ditch the deep bowls. Serve their wet or dry food on a wide, flat ceramic plate or a very shallow dish. You will be amazed at how much happier and more relaxed they are during mealtime when their whiskers are free. Another crucial factor in prolonging your cat's life is feeding them according to their specific life stage. You wouldn't feed a human baby the exact same diet as an 80-year-old grandpa, right? The same logic applies to our cats. Kittens are like tiny, furry tornadoes. They are growing rapidly, building muscle and bone, and burning energy at an insane rate. They need food that is extremely calorie-dense, packed with protein, fat, and specific minerals like calcium. On the other end of the spectrum, we have our dignified senior cats. As cats age, their metabolism slows down, their activity levels drop, and their organs, especially the kidneys, need a little more gentle care. Senior diets are typically lower in calories to prevent obesity, lower in phosphorus to protect the kidneys, and often include joint supplements. Feeding a senior cat kitten food will make them gain weight instantly, and feeding a kitten senior food will stunt their growth. Always check the label for the AFCO statement, or your local equivalent, to ensure the food is formulated for the correct life stage. Tailoring the diet to their age is one of the easiest ways to ensure a long, healthy life. What about the raw food trend? If you spend any time on cat internet, you have probably seen videos of people preparing elaborate meals of raw chicken hearts, ground bone, and supplements for their cats. The logic seems sound. It's exactly what they would eat in the wild. And it's true. A properly balanced raw diet can result in incredibly shiny coats, high energy, and very little odor in the litter box. However, it is not for the faint of heart. You cannot just throw a piece of raw chicken breast in a bowl and call it a day. A cat needs specific ratios of meat, organs, bone, and essential amino acids like taurine. If you get the balance wrong, you can cause severe nutritional deficiencies that can literally kill your cat. Furthermore, handling raw meat comes with significant risks of salmonella and E. coli, not just for the cat, but for the humans in the house. If you want to go the raw route, you must do massive amounts of research, consult with a veterinary nutritionist, or buy pre-packaged, commercially balanced raw food. It's a huge commitment, and frankly, high-quality canned wet food provides almost all the same benefits with zero risk of food poisoning. Let's have a serious talk about the begging eyes at the dinner table. You're eating a piece of pizza, and your cat is staring at you like they haven't eaten in 14 years. It is so tempting to just give them a little piece of cheese or a bite of ham. But human food is a minefield for felines. First of all, despite what every cartoon has ever taught us, most adult cats are actually lactose intolerant. Giving them a saucer of cow's milk is a one-way ticket to explosive diarrhea. Secondly, common human ingredients like onions, garlic, chives, and grapes are highly toxic to cats and can cause severe organ damage. Even seemingly harmless things like a piece of deli meat are loaded with sodium and preservatives that their tiny kidneys are not equipped to handle. If you want to give your cat a special treat, stick to treats designed for cats, or offer a tiny piece of plain, boiled, unseasoned chicken breast. Every time you feed them from your plate, you are not only risking their health, but you are also training them to be annoying beggars. Protect their longevity by keeping the human food strictly for the humans. We also need to address the psychological aspect of feeding. Why do we constantly want to overfeed our cats? Why do we give in when they cry at the bowl? Because in our human brains, food equals love. We think that by giving them an extra scoop of kibble or another handful of treats, we are showing them affection. And cats are incredibly smart. They have trained us perfectly. They know that if they meow loud enough, the giant hairless ape will produce snacks. But overfeeding is not love. It's actually shortening their lifespan. If you truly want to love your cat and prolong their life, you need to break the association that the only good thing you provide is food. Substitute feeding with playing. When they start begging at a weird hour, grab a feather wand. Engage their hunting instincts with play instead of calories. Brush them, give them chin scratches, or teach them tricks. Yes, cats can learn to high five. Building a bond based on interaction and play, rather than just food consumption, will result in a much healthier, leaner, and happier cat who lives significantly longer. When your vet looks at you and says, "Fluffy needs to go on a prescription diet," a lot of us internally panic because those bags cost as much as a small car. But these diets are not just a scam to get your money. If your cat develops urinary crystals, kidney disease, or severe food allergies, these specific foods are literally medicine. A urinary diet, for example, is scientifically formulated to alter the pH of the cat's urine to dissolve deadly crystals. You cannot replicate that with standard grocery store food, no matter how expensive or natural the packaging looks. I have seen cat owners try to cure urinary blockages with cranberry juice or internet remedies, and it ends in absolute tragedy. If a veterinarian prescribes a specific diet for a diagnosed medical condition, follow their advice. It is the most direct way to prolong your cat's life when they are facing a health crisis. Yes, it hurts the wallet, but it is infinitely cheaper than emergency surgery at 2 a.m. on a Sunday. So, what is the final ultimate verdict? Dry food or wet food? The absolute truth that will prolong your cat's life is this: moisture is king, protein is crucial, and obesity is the enemy. An exclusively dry food diet, while highly convenient for us, puts your cat at a much higher risk for chronic dehydration, urinary issues, and obesity. Wet food aligns far better with their biological needs as desert-dwelling obligate carnivores. However, the best diet is the one that fits your budget, your lifestyle, and your specific cat's medical needs, provided it is high quality and portion controlled. The golden standard for a healthy, vibrant life is a mixed diet. High-quality wet food for hydration and protein, supplemented with carefully measured puzzle-fed kibble for mental stimulation and grazing. Remember, you hold the power to their longevity in your hands every time you fill that bowl. Feed them with intention, not just convenience. And there you have it, folks. Now you know exactly what is going on inside that fluffy, chaotic little head of theirs. You know why they scream at the bowl, why they hate cold food, and why getting moisture into their diet is the ultimate secret to prolonging their 9 lives. Yes, they are dramatic. Yes, they treat us like their personal servants. And yes, they will probably still reject the expensive food just to watch us cry. But at the end of the day, we put up with all of it because we absolutely adore them, and we want them purring on our laps for as many years as possible. If this video helped you solve a cat food mystery, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel. Hit subscribe and the notification bell so you never miss out on more tips to make your furry tyrant happy. Share this video with another cat mom or cat dad who is struggling with a picky eater. Now I want to hear from you. What is the weirdest thing your cat has ever done regarding their food? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.